Namaste, everyone. Hearty welcome to all of our participants here for this 6-day online national faculty development program on Indian knowledge systems and introduction, which has been jointly organized by St. Mary's College, Yusufguda, Hyderabad, and Nucleus of Learning and Development. I believe that some of you have already joined NLD's previous FDP, so you might be aware of our initiative and efforts in teacher training and faculty development. And we have been consistently and sincerely organizing FDPs, workshops, certificate courses, and training programs on different variety of subjects, especially on Indian knowledge systems. And this 6-day program is meant to be an introduction to IKS. We all know that post the introduction of NEP 2020 in the higher education framework in our country, going back to our roots, going back to our ancient knowledge system, trying to understand what is the legacy, heritage, and knowledge that our ancients left for us, and to keep ourselves updated with that, to appreciate the knowledge and heritage that we have with us, as also to explore and understand how it is still useful in our lives and in different spheres of our work, life, activities, etc. This introductory FDP to IKS, we hope it will help you in taking IKS to the classroom. So in the past 2 sessions, Dr. Vikas, my esteemed colleague, he has talked about the definition and significance of IKS, and some part of it we will be extending that discussion in day after tomorrow's session when we speak about the classification framework of IKS. And I believe all of us here are from different disciplinary backgrounds, but IKS cuts across different kinds of disciplines. So you can approach and explore Indian knowledge systems from a broad, generic perspective, but you can also do it from the perspective, from the standpoint of your own discipline. So in yesterday's session, Dr. Vikas spoke about how IKS can be applied in social science education. Today's and tomorrow's session will be taken up by Dr. Pratibha Maitra, who is my colleague, and we are together in NLD's efforts. Very briefly introducing Dr. Pratibha, she is an experienced researcher, academic. She's been a dedicated academic in the field of media and communication studies. Over the past decade, she has a vast amount of experience in teaching at both the undergraduate and postgraduate level. She specializes especially in the teaching of communication research, media policy, media law, and other subjects. Currently, she is a yoga enthusiast, a yoga practitioner, which is the focus of her session today. And she completed her doctoral work from the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda in the field of education on a very interesting subject. Maybe she can talk about it later during the course of the session. She's also contributed immensely to academic publications, research publications, presented papers in different conferences, delivered guest lectures, and as she has expertise in handling academic administration. So with this, I am pleased to invite Dr. Pratibha to carry forward today's session on introduction to yoga philosophy and its application, especially keeping the IKS perspective in mind. You might have seen that all the 6 topics that we are going to talk about, the previous 2 which Dr. Vikas has facilitated, and today's and the upcoming topics, they're all different and they help us to understand Indian knowledge systems from a multifaceted perspective and help us to appreciate the vastness and diversity of our Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. So we are also, of course, extremely thankful to the collaborating team at St. Mary's College, Yusufgada. Thank you for joining hands with NLD for this program. So how we will go about today's session is Dr. Pratibha will make the presentation, deliver her session, and the last few minutes can be dedicated to Q&A. Of course, all of you all can also kindly use the chat box to share your insight, expertise, comments. This is all about mutual learning and sharing here. I encourage everyone to kindly use the chat box. Please be on mute during the session when Dr. Pratibha is presenting. It will be great if we can follow some housekeeping rules for a smooth sailing of the session. And of course, the chat box is open for us to interact. So over to you, Dr. Pratibha.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nidhi, one for giving such a lovely introduction. I always love to listen to my own introduction because you always put it in such a nice manner. And of course, thank you. This is my, though I have been taking these FDP programs, my focus is more towards the research, but IKS, I think for the first time I'm taking sessions in IKS, and specifically on yoga because it is close to my heart that way. So I thought I must kind of share whatever I have so far experienced and whatever information that I have derived so far. So let's just dive into the session. Okay, I can start like this. So my session is going to be divided into two parts rather. One is that we'll first go a little bit to the history part of yoga, because in IKS we often keep talking about that it's very ancient, and it's difficult because it's really ancient, because the documentation of the ancient knowledge started later period, but before, unless the period or the pre-Vedic period, it was not documented in that kind of a scale. So we only have some kind of evidences. So I will take you through the historicity of yoga, how far does it go, and then the focus would be more on the philosophy of yoga, with the 6 philosophies that we majorly talk about, the Indian philosophy, how yoga is one of the philosophies. So the focus will be on that. We will focus on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and especially on his Ashtanga Yoga. So let me just briefly take you through the history part first. But before that, we must understand that yoga is one of the very intense and a very significant and very insightful contribution that India has, offered to the world at the intellectual and spiritual level. And of course, it is a very, very important and integral part of Indian knowledge system. So yoga kind of represents a very holistic science, right? It's basically about harmonizing body, mind, and soul, they say, soul or consciousness. So it's a science of that. Yoga philosophy focuses on that. It's a science of harmonizing your material, that is your body, your mind, which is not tangible, and the pure consciousness that we talk about. So very well rooted in a philosophy, as I said before, and it has evolved as both practical discipline, like it is a practical discipline where you can apply, and it's also philosophical in nature, where you are actually aiming to kind of achieve self-realization, and we call it as moksha. You realize and you liberate yourself. Liberation has a lot of deep meaning to it. Liberation is like liberation from everything, liberation from pain, liberation from happiness. Like it's about like how you can be just sthitiprak, like how you can be completely at one level without being too happy, too excited, too unhappy. So how do you bring that balance is what yoga talks about. So let's get to the history part of it. So I'm taking you to the pre-Vedic period, which is around 2700 BC. This is the Indus Valley civilization time. That time there are archaeological findings, and these archaeological findings do depict figures, which kind of tells us that there was a presence, though it was not properly documented or even composed for that matter, but it was there. The seals were there. There were certain kind of figures. They say that there was a famous seal of Pashupati, which was found in Mohenjo-daro, and it was seated in a position of Mulabandha asana, right? It was a cross-legged meditative posture. So this kind of gives the suggestion that the germination of the yogic thought, the search for inner discipline or the search for control of breath or connection between human and the cosmic was there, right? So these kind of relics kind of tell us the present. So I'm taking you that how far it is. So yoga is not just now. What we are seeing, yoga is not there. It's not about it. It's about then. And that time, you can just imagine that these postures that were found, these relics that were found, did mention about the presence of this yoga. If you go to the Vedic period. So Vedic period is a time from 1500 to 600 BC. These periods, they are approximation. I mean, this is what the approximation period they say. And over here, the yoga part kind of consolidates a bit more, because this is the time when the Vedas came into existence. In the sense, it was always there, but the composition or the existence in the form of the four Vedas that we talk of was there in the Vedic period, right? And so if you see certain texts like Rig Veda, Atharva Veda, they have the word called yuj, which means which kind of says to unite, to kind of join, right? So when we see these words in our Vedic text, it kind of again reinforces the fact that the yogic philosophy or the yogic thought was continuing, right? So we are going from pre-Vedic to Vedic, and it is now consolidating more and more. So it sort of started becoming a kind of a mental discipline. At first, in the Vedas, they talk about the rituals and the sacrifices to please the god, but then it seems that at that time also another discipline of mental discipline started to kind of being discussed. Controlling of thoughts, emotions, sense, the final thing of inner peace, were already started now coming in more kind of discussions. So in the pre-Vedic time, you can talk about like quiet meditation, connection with the nature. But in the Vedic period, it was observed that the same spirit, but it was expressed more through self-control, more through some kind of rituals or prayers. So I'm taking you through this just to tell you all that how yoga is eon time of eternal kind of philosophy which existed, but how it slowly started taking its roots, right? So in the Vedic period, these ideas of tapas, tapasya that you call, or meditation, or prana, the vital breath, these kind of ideas started emerging. So these ideas basically laid the foundation of yoga as an inner spiritual discipline, right? So it was like complementing the ritual practices of the Vedic world. So here the idea, these ideas, they kind of laid the foundation of yoga as an inner spiritual discipline, right? So so this is our conjecture that, how the yoga actually started, coming into shape. It started coming into shape as time kind of passed by. And then if you go to the um, pre-classical, or they also call it the post-Vedic period, the Upanishad, the period they call it, 500, 200 BC. Now at this time also, one could make out that the Upanishads, they kind of turned yoga into a deeper philosophy, right? So there were deeper questions, started talking about who am I really, what really happens when I die, what is truth. So these were the kind of questions which kind of, these philosophical questions kind of, consolidated the philosophy of yoga more, right? So our Upanishads, our Bhagavad Gita, on these, in these texts, you could, find out about the meditative traditions. Yoga was discussed more on these lines, right? So, for example, in Katha Upanishad also, human is being compared to like a chariot. For example, your body is your chariot, the mind is kind of the rein, and the senses are the horses. So these were the discussions happening, and these discussions were ultimately, you know, uh, giving a shape to the whole philosophy of yoga. Um, so from the post-Vedic period, we go to the, that is the pre-classical and the classical period, 200 BCE to 400. Now, this is where actually our, great Patanjali comes into the scene, where he basically, he's known as the father of yoga, but he is not the person who actually, wrote it down. He collected the scattered philosophy and he gave it a very systematic, structure. Like he formed it into a very structured pattern and formed it in the form of Yoga Sutras. So that's how, from a very intangent to a very consolidated form, yoga actually came into the picture. So over here, Patanjali, he basically uh, talks that he defines rather yoga as the control of mind's fluctuation, right? He says that mind is something which is constantly very, very busy and engaging and, going around across several worlds. So therefore, it's very important that the mind has to be brought to some kind of a stability. And so he gives a very clear-cut steps, and that's called Ashtanga Yoga, which is we consider as 8 limbs of yoga. And so he focuses on that more. So we'll go on that a little bit later, but I'll just kind of tell. So this is the time where now yoga has really come into its form, a complete form. So Patanjali ji was the person who actually brought yoga, the scattered philosophy of yoga, into one structured pattern. Then the post-classical period is where yoga started kind of getting blended with more traditions, right? Like you hear about Hatha Yoga, Tantra Yoga, Kriya Yoga, and now even Power Yoga, so many yogas, right? So basically, it blended with different traditions, right? And therefore, it gave rise to the different forms of yoga, right? So Bhakti Yoga, for example, it's all about union through love and devotion, right? Which we see in Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga is all about, action, selfless action. That is union. So through Bhakti Yoga, you unite with the Supreme through love and devotion. Through Karma Yoga, you unite with the Supreme through your selfless action. With Gyan, it is through knowledge. And with Hatha Yoga, it's basically awakening your inner energy of the body through different postures and through different patterns of breath, right? So this is the period where it is said that yoga became more accessible. It was just not for the sages, but it became more accessible to ordinary common people also, right? So, and then of course, uh, the modern yoga now that we see, right from Swami Vivekananda, 19th-20th century, if you see, Swami Vivekananda ji was actually the first one who took yoga to the Western world as a science of mind, right? He didn't take it anything like it's anything religious, but he took it as it's a science of mind. Then, of course, Sri Aurobindo was there, who also kind of spoke of integral yoga, combining matter, mind, and spirit. Then, of course, we had teachers like V.K. Iyengar, Shivananda, Yogananda. In contemporary, we have Baba Ramdev, who really took yoga to at a very different level, and he just went and taught the Queen of England also yoga. So that's the trajectory that I took you from the pre-Vedic, Vedic to post-Vedic to the modern part of it. So this is the a brief history of yoga. That we are not talking about yoga just like that. It was there. It was there since you know, centuries and centuries and centuries. And it is a science, and it is a science to make you the most wonderful version of yourself. That's the yoga philosophy that we will be focusing on, right? Okay. So before I come to the philosophy, let's just at least have a little understanding of the major six philosophies that we talk about. We talk about the two schools of thought, which is broadly been divided as Astika and Nastika. I'm sure all of you all must be aware of this. That these are the yesterday even Dr. Vikas discussed about these six philosophies, and it's like Nyaya and Vaishika, Samakhya. Yoga is a part of this philosophy. Purvamimamsa, Uttarmimamsa. Now these are the philosophies who consider the Vedas or the Vedic knowledge as their authority, as the prime authority. Nastika is another school of thought which actually do not consider Veda as an authority of knowledge. They are non-conformist, so they are totally opposite. So, for example, Buddhism and Jainism, if you see, they do not consider Veda as their authority knowledge, but they have their own system of understanding. Though, of course, a lot is being influenced from it, but they took the path which they felt uh, is more appropriate for their understanding. So Buddhism, Jainism is about that. Charvaka, somebody yesterday was asking about Charvaka. This philosophy also does not believe Vedas. In fact, they are more materialist in nature. So I'll just quickly take you over. Say, for example, let's come to the Astika part. Nyaya is basically, in a very simple word, if I try to say this, the founder of this logic, I mean, it's basically on logic, and the founder of the school was Rishi Gautam. And in very short, we say that their understanding was like everything has to be reason, right? You need to have reason and evidence to know the truth. In simple words, just use your brain and don't believe blindly. This is what my philosophy is. So, for example, if you say that, okay, meditation is giving you great peace and calm, a Nyaya thinker could always tell you that, okay, how do you know that? And what is the proof? And is there a test for it? Right? So this is how, so they normally, this school of thought is normally on logic and observation, and it is on reasoning. So that's Nyaya uh, philosophy. Vaisika is another, you can call it science. The founder of this school was Rishi Kanada. And this philosophy is all about that. It's more like physics. They say that world is made up of tiny atoms. It explains how the world works, right? So you can consider Vaishika as the ancient physics of that time, right? So for them, it was like everything around this, earth is like, whether you call it a living object or a non-living object, they all are made of combination of atoms, right? So they believe that every person has a soul and that experiences the material world. So Vaishika, if you see that way, ancient Indian version of science plus spirituality. So that's Vaishika. Samakhya or Sankhya philosophy, the founder was Rishi Kapil, and they believed in two parts of the world has, they see world in two parts. One is the Purusha and Prakriti, which means that Purusha is your true pure self, your true consciousness, and Prakriti is considered as nature, mind, body, emotions. So they believe that because of Prakriti, our true self, our consciousness is quite engulfed in Prakriti. So once you are able to detach or you are able to see Prakriti away from you, so you tend to see the pure Purusha or the pure consciousness in you, right? So, so in this philosophy, like to give it a little modern example, would be like if you are, you know, you're too caught up in your social media, right? Uh, or your exam stress, whatever. So you are actually you're forgetting yourself, right? You're not calm. You're not your inner peace is not there, right? So the Sankhya philosophy talks about this, that we are engulfed in all this, and so therefore we are not seeing our true self. We are not realizing our Purusha, the observer that brings peace to us. So Sankhya is knowing the difference between me and my thoughts, right? Where you can totally, uh, you know, bring that distinction. It's something like you're sitting in the room, like I'm sitting in the room over here, and I know that I am not the room, right? So the room is different and I am different. Sankhya is focusing on this kind of a philosophy. We come to yoga philosophy, which we will take little later. So that's part of our major six philosophies. And here, of course, the founder is Patanjali. Um, then the Mimamsa is founder again of this philosophy is Rishi Jaimini, and it is more focusing on good actions matter more than belief. So it's known as Mimamsa. It's all about karma kand and all, duty or dharma. And it's basically, it keeps society and the mind balanced. So it's more basically about karma kand. So how you can, you know, your duties, a student's duty to study very sincerely, you know, a teacher's duty is to guide sincerely, right? So when everybody they perform their duties, harmony kind of flows, right? So Mimamsa is about that. So it's Uttam Mimamsa and Purv Mimamsa. Then it is also known as Vedanta, which is the wisdom app, wisdom basically. Here the founder of this philosophy was Vyasa, Bhadrana. So this philosophy was based on Upanishads, basically the spiritual part of the Vedas, and their philosophy is that everything in this unique in this universe, whether it is you know everybody, all of us over here, we are part of one reality called the Brahma. So so there is the supreme Brahma, and we are the soul, Atma. So Atma is not different from Brahma. We are part of that Brahma, right? So these, in short, these are the brief understanding of uh, these philosophies, and of course, Buddhism and Jainism we know. Charvaka is a very interesting kind of a philosophy, very materialist thinker of ancient India, very rebellious also, and they were also rationalist basically, and they always believed that look, till the time you can't see, hear, you can't taste, you can't smell, then it does not exist, you know. So they were basically very empirical. So they said that unless we do not see it through our senses, unless we don't, so we do not, we do not accept this, you know, abstract thing, God and soul and all. We haven't seen it, so we don't believe in it. Yeah. So, but and they don't believe in any heaven or God or anything. But that doesn't mean that they were like anti-social elements or the Charvaka philosophy. They said that look, your body dies. Where it goes, we don't know. right? So till the time you're in your body, live your life to the fullest, right? Like enjoy every moment of your life. And what happens next, we don't know. So live life properly. So that's their, in short, their philosophy of Jayananta. So these were the main philosophies, but the session today will be focused more on yoga. So let me just come to the yoga part of it. Um, According to the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, uh, it's it is compiled in four parts, and so they are known as padas. Padas are four parts or chapters. So there is samadhi pada, there is sadhana pada, vibhuti pada, and kaivalya pada. So it comprises of around, I think it's around 190 to 195 uh, you know, aphorisms which are divided into these four padas or chapters, right? Um, so all these uh, chapters, they have, I'll just briefly talk that what essence or what sense they make. So Samadhi Pada basically deals with yoga, that why, what is yoga basically, and why we need it, right? So this is what this chapter deals with. And it says that yoga is, it is the end of instabilities of the mind, right? So basically, it will soothe the mind, and you will tend to experience the more inner calm and clarity uh, through yoga. So this particular chapter basically focuses on what is yoga and why we basically need yoga. So that's Samadhi Pada uh, for you. Sadhana Pada explains how to practice yoga. So we will be focusing more on this, the eightfold path of yoga, the Ashtanga yoga. And it's Ashtanga yoga is the major, kind of a blueprint for your entire lifestyle. It is said that if Ashtanga yoga is followed in the life, then there is hardly any scope for your life to go haywire. Like you would live a very smooth and a life which is full of jest and full of bliss if one follows Ashtanga yoga, right? So that's sadhana pada, and vibhuti pada is um, it talks more on the concept of how to achieve siddhas. Basically, there are certain maybe some tantric kind of practices, which is how you can achieve the super normal powers through you, right? So basically, is getting the siddhis, different siddhis, right? So it's a deeper state of concentration where you tend to get. So we have many kind of sadhus, and even today they say that in the higher realms of Himalayas, you find these siddhas and they are able to do a lot of things. But that's again the yoga part of it. In our philosophy, like it is nothing great. If you practice yoga to an extent, so even it is, I mean, it's people like you and me can also attain these siddhis. So Vibhuti Pada is a chapter in Patanjali Yoga Sutra which discusses on this issue, right? This topic. And then the fourth pada is the Kaivalya, which talks about liberation, spiritual union. Ultimately, the goal, the yoga philosophy talks about that the goal of the human being is ultimately to unite with the Supreme Soul. We are a soul and there's a super soul. And so we ultimately unite with the super soul. So following the yoga philosophy, the ultimate goal is to become one uh, with the supreme energy, supreme soul. You got it, right? So the four padas are basically talking on these levels. Our focus will be on this pada, which talks about the Ashtanga yoga, right? The sadhana pada. This is very important in yoga because if you are able to do the sadhana properly, then the other things kind of follow. So let me focus myself on the sadhana pada. Now, in this sadhana pada, they have these 8 limbs. That means they're given these 8 kind of understandings. One is the yam niyam. We call it yama niyama, but I think. Hello.
Sorry, I think somebody got unmuted. I'm just checking. Okay. Yeah. No.
Should I continue?
Yeah. You can continue, Dr. Pratibha.
All right. So we'll focus on this these 8 limbs of yoga. So yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. These are the 8 understandings that if people like all of us, if we can understand this part, I think our life is sorted. This is now I'm not talking this from information point of view. I'm talking this from pure experience point of view. Not that I'm trying to say that my life is very sorted, but you do go through certain experiences in life and you realize that where certain things go wrong, right? So therefore, when I studied the Ashtanga Yoga, these 8 understandings, when I was going through them, I realized personally that if certain things, I mean, if you follow these things, these 8 limbs of yoga, especially the yam and niyam, I mean, these are the 2 very important limbs of yoga. If these 2 are followed thoroughly, then of course, the other part becomes easier. It's all matter of practice. But overall, your life in the material world becomes much smoother. It becomes very clearer, and there is a sense of you kind of feel a sense of purpose. Now, sense of purpose doesn't mean that we don't have sense of purpose. The real sense of purpose, that ultimately who are we and why are we here and where do we go? Like, where do we want to go? I mean, is this just the life that you take your birth, you grow up, you study, you earn money, you bring some kind of a status, and then you become old and we are dead, right? Is this what life is? Or then there is something beyond this? Of course, different philosophies address this issue. All the 6 philosophies that I talked about, the goal is one, that ultimately you have to liberate. Ultimately, you unite with the Supreme. So all these philosophies, they talk about that ultimate purpose of life, that where we are headed to, So what after we are dead? Where do we go? Are we alone as a soul? Are there other souls who come and help us? Are we into some different realm? Are we talking about multiverses? I mean, there are so many questions, right? So are the 6 philosophies that we are talking about, they address these issues. And yoga is one of them, right? So let me take you to the yam, niyam, and asanas. Asana, of course, we can have a discussion on that. Pranayama is more about the breath control, which is part of asana. When you do asanas, then, pranayama is a part of it. And breath control is what yoga talks about. It's all about breath, You hear these kind of, news that, somebody lived for. So like I was going through some news articles where I realized that in Japan, there is a village where there are people who are staying like for more than 100 years, like 110, 120, but they are very, very, very healthy. Like they are not, I mean, they're not people who are immobile or anything. They are living their life to the fullest, right? Even in our ancient times, you see, we have people who used to live for 100 plus years, right? So if you talk about Satyug, this is what it is said. We have read this, that they used to live for more than 100 years, 500 years, So because, it's all about breath. So if you are able to really breathe in the correct scientific manner, if you are able to understand your breath, then your longevity also increases, but in a very, very healthy manner. So pranayama is all about breath control. Pratyahara is withdrawal of the senses. Again, it makes a lot of sense that way. that how our senses are always, keeping us engaged with the material world. It is keeping us engaged with the Prakriti, right? And it is not allowing us to see the true consciousness or the true Purusha in us. So Pratyahara is basically about withdrawal of senses. It also helps you further in your journey of understanding the purpose of your life. Dharana and Dhyana, these two, sometimes we wonder, I mean, they mean the same, but Dhyana is more about concentration and focusing on one thing. Dharana, and Dhyana is then to live in that focus, right? So there is a little hairline difference. Dharana is, for example, I'm focusing on a particular tree and concentrating over there and making the efforts. Once I've reached that focus and concentration, then Dhyan follows. That means that I don't have to put any efforts. I am that. I have become the tree, so that's Dhyan. So you must have experienced sometimes that when you are working in a very, concentrated manner, you lose the sense of time around. That's Dhyan, right? I often give this example of Michael Jackson. So there's Dr. Deepak Chopra. I'm sure you must have heard about him. He's in America. He's a doctor and he's a spiritual practitioner also. He was very closely associated with Michael Jackson. And it happened so, he narrated the story that when he was talking to Michael Jackson, he just got up and he just had some kind of a rhythm in his mind and he started dancing. And Dr. Deepak Chopra was kind of, seeing him. And what he narrated was that when Michael Jackson was dancing, he had completely lost that where he is, or how much, what time, space, everything had completely, he had become the dance itself. So that's the meditative part of it, dhyana part of it, is what I understand. And finally, samadhi is when you are totally absorbed, when that's the time when you actually align to kind of become one with the Supreme. So these are the 8 limbs of yoga. Yam and Niyam we will discuss. A little bit of asana we'll discuss, a little bit of pranayama. So pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi are the other part of the yoga. So, but this doesn't mean that they are in different boxes, like, so you kind of do them simultaneously. So you practice your yam niyam, you practice your asana, you practice your pranayama, and you practice your pratyahara also. You do dharana and dhyan. Samadhi comes when all the above 7 are completely mastered, right? Okay, let's go to the yams and niyams. Now, basically, when we talk about the yam, we are talking about the yam, right? Yam or the yamas, they call it. So they basically, these 5 principles that yoga philosophy talks about. Yams is for the society, your code of conduct towards society. Now, if you kind of listen to these properly, you will realize that if we practice these things also, and imagine that all of us, all people around the world, if they practice these yams, our society or the world will become a much better place for all of us to live, right? So the first yam is about ahimsa. We all know it's non-violence, non-harming. But one is physically, that of course physically, and we all talk about it, that non-violence is great. Like you're not supposed to hurt physically. That is of course there. But even mentally, it becomes important. Your words or your thoughts can also harm others, right? So when you try to be very harsh to others, when you're trying to be very judgmental, you are actually getting into the act of violence, right? So it's very simple. We know about it, but how many of us really practice it? किसी ने आपको गुस्से में कुछ भी बोल दिया, और हमारा रिएक्शन इमीडिएटली ये होता है कि हम उसको रिएक्ट कर देते हैं. So yoga is all about that how can you keep your senses in regulation, right? So all the time to be in that moment of consciousness, to see that how you are behaving, what you are doing is very, very important. So ahimsa is the first yam that one needs to follow, right? So you stop causing harm, right? You stop causing harm. You create a peace inside and outside yourself, right? So if you practice this, I'm sure uh, it's very easy said than done. It may be easy कि हाँ ऐसा practice करो, but लेकिन इसमें अगर हम थोड़े से भी जागृत हो जाएं, like थोड़े से भी हम attentive हो जाएं इसमें, तो it can help us, right? किसी के बारे में कुछ भी बोल देना, so these things are detrimental for you and also for the others, because आप जो वाणी बोलते हो, जो आपके words होते हैं, वो सामने वाले के लिए बहुत detrimental हो सकते हैं, right? It can kind of psychologically affect that person. So you have created a karma, a karmic bond with that person, because आपने उसको कुछ बोल दिया और उसके सामने वाले ने जो है उसका जो है act उसका वो हो गया, तो somewhere जो है एक वो karmic bond भी आपका create हो जाता है. So let's try to see that let's not harm others physically and mentally, and let's try to be peaceful. That's it, right? So all we need to do is just be kind and compassionate. Then we go to Satya, right? Satya, truthfulness. Now this is very true that, it's more about being very honest, telling the truth, but it basically means that you admit when you don't know something, right? Or when you make a mistake, or you avoid pretending to be someone that you are not, right? So truthfulness doesn't mean always that through words you're supposed to be truth, but truthfulness to be who you are, right? We do a lot of pretending act sometimes. So it's just be who you are. आता है तो आता है, नहीं आता है तो नहीं आता है, मिस्टेक्स हुई है तो मिस्टेक्स हुई है, राइट? हम एक झूठ को छुपाने के लिए 100 झूठ बोलते हैं. So it is, all these things are something which is not very new. I'm sure all of us know about it, but I'm bringing it to the attention that how this is very, very important in the yoga philosophy. If these things are not adhered, then what happens is that no matter how many asanas you will do, it doesn't really make any difference, right? So following Satya is another. So the deeper idea is truthfulness builds trust and authenticity, right? So you live your life without guilt. You live your life without pretense, right? So that's Satya. Then Astaya. Astaya is non-stealing, right?
Dr. Pratibha, the slide hasn't moved to the next one. Yeah.
Now it has moved?
Yes. Also, just giving you a time check, it's 7:52. Just
Yeah. I will quickly wrap it up.
Yeah. No problem.
So Astaya is non-stealing, which we all know of material possession, but it also means, time of other people's time, their ideas, their energy in our education, ideas, plagiarism, and all, of course. But it also has a great meaning in the sense that, in the material world, हम लोग बहुत ऐसे होते हैं ना कि ये मेरा हो जाए. कभी कभी आप ऐसे देखते हो कि अरे यार इसके पास इतनी बड़ी गाड़ी है, इतना बड़ा बंगलो, मेरे पास भी ये होता. ठीक है, it is good to know that. But if you can earn with your own purusharth, it is good. But when you take devious means to attain that, then that becomes a problem. And in a similar way, there are non-tangible things like even, you just go and hang on with people, बेचारों को देर हो रही है, जाना है, but still they are there. So these things are supposed to be taken care of. Don't take what is not yours, in simple words. आपकी वो चीज नहीं है, तो आप उसको don't eye that, right? It's just not about objects, but it is about different intangible things also. In a similar way, there is something called brahmacharya. Now, brahmacharya normally जो है celibacy के लिए बोला जाता है, which is correct in a way, because brahmacharya का जो पालन होता है, normally we do, it's the younger generation, right? Till the time you're not married. So brahmacharya तब तक होता है जब तक आप जो है अपना knowledge gain कर रहे होंगे, especially for students. So it's just not about celibacy. This is basically using your energy, right? Using your energy in the right direction, channelizing your energy into right direction. Because if this does not happen, if you're not wisely channelizing your energy, then there is a waste of time, you are distracted, and जो आपका focus इस particular चीज में लगना चाहिए वो नहीं लगता है, right? So use your time and energy for things that will help you to grow, that will help you to develop, right? For example, students के लिए studies, creativity, right? So these are the things where the focus can be more. So instead of आजकल हमारे WhatsApp हो गए हैं, कितना कुछ हो गया है, we are endlessly just wasting our time here and there, but Brahmacharya is about using energy in the right direction. Then we have a parigraha, which is non-possessiveness, non-greed, which means do not hold, right? Or cling to things, whether they are material stuff or emotions. I'm sure all of us, especially women, we hold a lot of things. ये डब्बा नहीं फेंकना, इसको रहने दो, वो इकट्ठा होता रहता है, right? So whether it's material stuff or emotions, let go of your emotions, right? It's not going to harm. So there are so many people like, that it's like, there's a FOMO, jisko bolte hain, fear of missing, right? So you stop constantly kind of wanting, कि ये भी चाहिए, वो भी चाहिए, ऐसा भी चाहिए. So in short, live a need-based life. जो जरूरत है उतना ही रखो, उससे ज्यादा वैसे भी कुछ काम आने वाला नहीं, right? So this virtue of non-possessiveness, non-greediness, helps in your inner growth, inner development, right? So yamas, this is a framework for your ethical living that supports the cultivation of your inner peace, your personal integrity, and harmonious relationship. And this is towards the society. अब आप imagine करो ये हम सब follow करेंगे, if all of us follow this, then like in society we have less and less of problems that way. And coming to the niyam wala part, the niyams are how you treat yourself. Now this yams is towards the society. Now this code of conduct is towards you, right? There are 5 niyams and these are personal discipline. Yeah, again for your inner cultivation, right? So your first one is sauch. You call it as cleanliness. It just doesn't mean you're physical. Physically, of course, yes, you have to clean yourself. But there are other emotions that we need to cleanse ourselves from: jealousy, hate, sadistic pleasure, arrogance. Now, these are the things that, kind of, it doesn't keep your body healthy, right? Every emotion, negative emotion, affects the cell of your body. Your self is a living entity. It is a separate living entity. It has its own consciousness, right? So the moment you get jealous or you hate somebody, there are certain kind of chemicals created, and that in turn starts bothering your body, right? So cleansing of physical and emotional, all the negative emotions, right? Then the second layer is santosh, contentment. You have to be satisfied with what you have and who you are. You can work towards becoming a better version of yourself, but all the time, मेरे पास ये नहीं है, मैं ऐसा हूँ, मैं ऐसा नहीं कर सकता. ये जो complaining nature हमारा होता है, ये again बहुत detrimental हो जाता है हमारे growth के लिए, right? So be satisfied with what you have, and if there is a desire to, have something, तो उसको जो है right तरीके से, in the right, manner, you can do it. But overall, just feel good about what you have and who you are is the second niyam of Patanjali Sutra. Then we have tapas, discipline or self-effort. So tapas is just not about sitting somewhere in a meditative position or moving. It's all about self-control, right? That how you can cultivate self-control, how you can cultivate persistence, even when it is hard, right? So there are so many times when you don't feel like doing it, right? You feel कि आज नहीं, कल नहीं, परसों नहीं, So वो regularity जो आपको practice करनी पड़ती है, stick to your routine is what tapas is all about, right? So जितना आप अपने routine को करोगे, hardship उसके through जाओगे. I know that tomorrow morning I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there is a report that I have to. But if tomorrow morning ऐसे छोड़ो यार बाद में कर लेंगे, तो ये तपस नहीं है. तपस का मतलब ही है कि आप हार्डशिप करो, अपनी बॉडी को तपाओ, ताकि आप सोने जैसे निखर जाओ, right? So tapas burns away your laziness. It makes you strong mentally and physically. Then comes Swadhyay, which means self-study. It is reflection. It is all about learn about yourself, about your thoughts, your emotions. What are the patterns of your emotions, right? It's basically you know yourself, and that is about your self-knowledge and also about information, knowledge otherwise, proper knowledge. So you do a lot of text reading. जैसे हमको बोला जाता है कि अपने टेक्स्ट, अपनी वेदास, भगवत गीता, इन सबको पढ़ो, इससे आपको नॉलेज आता है, इससे आपको पता चलेगा कि what should be the direction of your life. And then other swadhyay is to know yourself properly, right? So proper knowledge of being aware of your ignorance, right? So spiritual growth begins when you realize that you are ignorant and now you want to become more knowledgeable. इसलिए ये स्वाध्याय, self study or reflection is very important. And lastly is Ishwar Parinidhan, where you surrender to the divine or the higher power, right? So you trust the process of life. You trust that you surrender your ego. मैं तो action कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन the yoga philosophy says that ultimately जो है, it is the cosmic plan that really works. So when things don't go your way, accept that some things are beyond your control, right? So do your best and just let it go, right? Let the cosmic plan take over, right? So surrender does not mean that you're giving up. It means that you have faith. You have that humility to say, okay, what I had to do, I have done. Now I leave it to the supreme power, right? So that's Ishwar Parinidhan, devotion to God or devotion to the Supreme. So these are the 5 yam niyams that in Ashtanga Yoga is discussed. And when you follow this pattern of yam and niyam, then you get into, so as I told you, you have to do it simultaneously. And then of course the asanas, if you really, the asanas is all about keeping your body supple. It's all about keeping your body healthy, right? It's all about keeping your body in such a state that ultimately when it comes to the time of dhyan, dharana and dhyan, your body copes up with that, right? So agar aapka body healthy nahi hoga, aap kitna bhi बैठ जाएं, you'll be always be distracted. कभी पैर दुखेगा, कभी कमर दुखेगी, कभी something or the other you have to do. But if you really want to do the dharana and dhyan wala part, your body has to be very, very supple. Your body has to be very healthy. It has to be strong enough to take the challenge of the other part of Ashtanga, right? So I think this is where I can stop and we can, take some discussions or some question answers. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pratibha. Thank you for taking us through the crux of yoga philosophy, which you have so beautifully explained while keeping Indian knowledge systems at the center. And while you were explaining the different aspects of yoga philosophy, I was thinking about 2 aspects. One, how it is so practical and feasible. I mean, it is not lying in some theoretical vacuum or conceptual or philosophical bubble, but there are guiding principles which can help make our lives better, which can help us stay happy, because happiness is the ultimate goal of human life. And second, I was also thinking of how at one end, all our Bharatiya darshans, they may appear as very complex, but when you start to understand and peel the layers, they look very relatable. I was also thinking about how if we start to live our lives according to what all you discussed, it may, especially in the current times, in the modern world, which is so influenced by technology and other material aspects, we may start living our lives following certain philosophies, especially those that stem from our indigenous roots. But if the other person does not, then it may be difficult for us. So yeah, these were my initial thoughts when I was listening to you, but it's a wonderful explanation of yoga darshan in a very succinct and simple way. Anybody who wishes to explore yoga darshan further can use this as a starting point. So we can spend about 10 minutes for discussion and questions. Anybody, please feel free to raise your hand. So I may call out your name and invite you to ask your question, or you may just pose the question in the chat. Vinayji is saying very informative. You've covered so many aspects of Bharatiya Darshan, especially yoga philosophy, and the context and the background was very useful. Thank you, Vinayji. Shakti ji is saying nice session. So yes, let's wait for participants to.
I think it is already 8:05. Everybody must be wanting to have their dinner. But just to add one little thing, see, why I consider other philosophies, of course, that they all have this, the goal is the same, but yoga is something which is very, very practical. It can be applied. It can be lived every day, and it's a very easy way to kind of, help yourself to grow spiritually. This is what I feel, because these are the things which we can do. It's not हमें कोई रोज हवन नहीं करना है, हमें कोई कहीं जाके तपस्या नहीं करनी है, हमें हमारे घर पे बैठ के certain things करनी है. और ये जो यम नियम के जो हमने बात करी है, ये this is my personal experience. I feel that this यम नियम अगर हम छोटे से अपने बच्चों को अगर इनको पढ़ाएं, like even at the school level, so we can kind of foresight. I mean, we can visualize a better society. हमारे आप अगर देखें, हमारे पेरेंट्स छोटे में हमको ये सब बताते ही थे, ऐसे नहीं था कि नहीं बताते थे. बट अगर इस पे थोड़ा अटेंटिव फोकस किया जाए ना, so I mean, this is the need of the hour. They are very simple concepts, but it is so much needed in our society now because we are deprived. I mean, I talk to so many people when I come to know that it's there on paper. They know, they all understand, but when it comes to really doing, it's not happening, right? So therefore, जो हमारा जो value system जो हमारी society का इतना नीचे चला गया है, वो सिर्फ इसीलिए है कि अगर ये यम नियम थोड़े पालन होने शुरू हो जाए, तो there would be a better society to live in.
Yes, and that is exactly the reason why we should be going back to our roots while continuing to appreciate and take benefit of the modern amenities, globalization, technology, facilities that are being offered to us, but not leaving our roots is very important, and that is where IKS is helpful.
And I think with the new technology and our Indian knowledge system, if it collaborates, I think we can have a wonderful world around, a wonderful world.
Yeah. I remember in the second edition of our certificate course, we had Sri Narasimha Dasari ji from IIT Guwahati, and he had proposed a very interesting model of framework of this collaboration between new technology and IKS. I wish I could share the recording of that session with our participants. I'll trace that recording and share it with everyone. Okay, Abhishek ji is saying,
yeah, thank you so much, Abhishek ji. Yeah, because in English we always put the A always comes. That
yes.
Yama, Niyama, Rama, Krishna. Doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, let me just share with you, Abhishek ji, that I am kind of doing a course on yoga. They insist that you must say yoga and yam and niyam, So I was just trying to practice that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
yes, I think this has been a point of contention, debate, discussion, whatever one may like to call it. Friends from different parts of the country have different opinions about it. I have learned friends from the southern part of the country, like our friend Manasa Shastri, who is also a proficient yoga trainer and yoga educator. She has a very different opinion on the pronunciation of the words Rama, Lakshmana, Hanumana, yoga, darshana, whereas people and practitioners, experts from other parts of the country may have a different opinion. And I think this discussion has been going on as long
But it
as
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
It
Correct.
doesn't matter. What matters is the content. What matters is that can we use this knowledge into our lives, and can we really apply it, and can we really practice it? Is what matters, So
Yes. So I think that, yeah, and of course the floor is open for all the participants to pitch in, and we are still open to questions. I didn't see any raised hands, so just shared my inputs. And I think one of the best ways to introduce our students to Indian knowledge systems is by talking about yoga, by making them do yoga, by making them understand and appreciate the deeper philosophy of yoga. Because at times when we introduce IKS in the classroom, it can get a little bit overwhelming, and it may, initially, I think it may drive students away from learning about our ancient systems and heritage, because they may find it very difficult and complex to digest. But if we look at topics such as storytelling, oral traditions, performing art traditions, India's contribution to different domains like science, technology, mathematics, political thought, etc., or we can start talking about cultural aspects, etc., then that it makes it easier, it makes it interesting for students, and they can relate very well, and they may take a liking to learning about their own knowledge system.
true, absolutely. Yeah. So I think maybe there are. I mean, it's already 8:11. Everybody must be wanting to rush. I see only 28 participants.
Yeah, we can take one question from Abhishek ji, and then we can close.
Yeah. What is Abhishek ji saying? Is the Kaivalya same as Nirvan in Jainism, because it is about Astic and Nastic school of thought? Very good question. I think this is my understanding, Abhishek ji. Kaivalya does mean basically moksha, that So, and Nirvana also kind of, so they may mean the same. I mean, I cannot for sure say whether Jainism has a different context to Nirvana, but the word, the meaning, I think Kaivalya, Nirvana kind of denotes the same understanding, that it's basically liberation, right? So yeah, and you're correct, because they are from two different school of thoughts, right? But let me just add, Jainism and Buddhism, they may be from the Gnostic, Gnostic as in not that, it's just that the influence of the Vedas is there. So they've taken the best part of it, and the certain things which they did not agree, they kind of left it over there, right? So the influence of Jainism and Buddhism, of course, does come from our the Vedas also. Yeah. So Abhishek ji, this is my understanding. We can always find out and see whether they do have a different connotation. But my understanding says that they may mean the same thing. Kaivalya and Nirvana, the same.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pratibha, for answering that question. Thank you, Abhishek ji, for raising that question. And I think when we are looking at specific terms and meanings in terms of IKS, we may read more to explore about the background, context, who contributed to the philosophical school of thought, and what are the opinions of different scholars and experts in that parampara, in that tradition, in terms of understanding that particular word. So I think this requires a little further deep diving.
Yeah.
So great. We are closing today's session, and we hope to see you all in tomorrow's session, where again Dr. Pratibha will touch upon a very interesting theme, politics and governance from the Bharatiya perspective. Thank you everyone for joining. I do realize that the Google Meet interface is a little bit modified, is a little bit changed. So I did post a link of a WhatsApp group, IKS Research Enthusiasts. This is a collective of mainly faculty members, academicians who are interested in IKS, who are teaching IKS, who want to pursue IKS research. It's an open group. You can join it, and we share updates about conferences, webinars, FDPs, internship opportunities, work opportunities, collaborative opportunities, especially with reference to IKS. So this is an IKS only group. So if you are somebody who is interested in IKS, or if you want to explore and network with respect to IKS, or if you want to collaborate with like-minded people on IKS projects and work ahead, please send a request to join this group. If you're not able to click the link, you can reach out to me. I am in the WhatsApp group, the FDP group, Nidhi. You can just find me and send a direct message. So
And Ajay, I was just wanting to say that I told you that we have very enthu participants. The enthu participants are missing today. I don't see Dr. Pallavi, Chandra Mohanji, and other people are not here. So,
Dr. Pallavi and Chandra Mohanji, they are regular participants of NLD's FDPs.
yeah, and they really contribute a lot. Today they're not there. I think we must punish them for not being there today.
I think today, because it is Deva Deepavali,
Possible.
there is some ritual or
Good evening,
puja
ma'am.
going.
Who's this?
Ma'am, Abhishek, I'm Abhishek.
Yes, sir, tell me.
Please, can you share the same link in this particular group?
Yeah, I'm sure Dr. Deji can do it.
Abhishek ji, I cannot share the link in the FDP group because that's a very common group, and I don't want to, break the protocol of that group by sharing it. You can note my number. Please DM me on
Okay, ma'am.
WhatsApp, and I will conveniently add you to the group.
Okay, ma'am.
My
Please.
number is here,
let me know.
9925469034. Just send me a WhatsApp DM and I will send you a joining link.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So
Thanks.
let's close for today.
Yeah, all right, bye-bye. Bye. And before we go, let's give this emoticons to all our